Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. Hope you enjoy. Story number 1. Call Jimmy and the General. Written by Upgrade. Well, the Krabbies ate my arm. I took that personally. Cole flexed his robotic skeletal hand. The actuators groaned with what seemed like malevolence. Got me during a reload. Had to switch to my knife, he continued. That's when I realized that you don't have to stop to reload if all your bullets are already in the gun. He tapped the side of his head with his finger. Cole tossed back the rest of his coffee. I ran with a 12-gauge drum mag for a while, but once I found the General, I considered the problem solved. I admired the human greatly. Standing 2 meters to my 1.5, he easily outweighed me by 3 times. I preferred my fine fur to his bare skin, but I have to admit, it made it easier to read their expressions in spite of their interspecies boundaries. Revenge is as good a reason as any to keep working, I suppose. Since we lost their home world, those assholes have mostly disappeared. Sometimes we see signs of them out and here in the periphery. What with the ships we find with the crew eat. I shuddered. The shelled, or crabbies as Cole called them, were a menace that the galaxy owed a great debt to the humans for eradicating. Driven by some religious edict to consume intelligent life, they wiped out 3 sapient species before they were scattered. Ours was a small cargo ship, and I was glad to have him on board. He was the only, but one was enough given how small our quarters and passageways were designed. When we were docked, he moved as much cargo as 10 of us with his thin robotic exoskeleton. He called it Jimmy, but the worn stenciling on the side said JIMI 268. I wasn't sure what that designation meant. He spoke to it sometimes, when he thought no one was listening. Carl was supposed to be working security, so it was nice of him to chip in with the busy work. During runs to the outer colonies, he would mostly be squeezing himself around in service corridors, talking to himself. It was strange. We were clearing our trays from lunch when the alarm sounded with the strobe lights. Collision alarm! Brace! 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 I hugged the wall, and Cole's mechanical arm gripped an overhead beam. I swear I saw the titanium girder start to crumple. Then the lights went out. A moment later, and the drive shut off, and we were weightless. An EMP. Talk to me, Jimmy, Cole shouted. I could not hear any reply, and Jimmy was not even in the room. Cole gripped my shoulder with his natural hand, and I froze under his steely glare. 7 minutes, port number 2 airlock, black suit, go. With that order, Cole moved, on all fours crawling wall to wall in 0G. He was terrifying. Thankfully, it was less than a second before he was out of sight. I heard Cole's voice over the ship-wide speaker. Prepare to repel boarders, this is not a drill. I rushed to the nearest suit locker and pulled on my light-duty vac suit, the wrinkly kind that were only meant to keep you alive in an emergency. I worked the seals as I made my way to the airlock, and I sealed my helmet as I arrived and grabbed the wall handholds. 30 seconds later, I felt footsteps approaching. I turned and didn't understand how Cole was marching down the corridor. The movements were insectile and fluid. I saw in a moment that he was wearing Jimmy, and Jimmy's feet had extended claws that would grip through the metal decking to hold each step securely. The trail behind him was a march of ruined footsteps as the claws gripped the deck as if it were tissue, to be wadded up and discarded. The dim, phosphorescent emergency light made the entire scene very unsettling. I had never seen Cole or Jimmy move like that, nor seen those claws deployed. Cole was also carrying a very large gun, held at his hip and sticking almost 2 meters out in front of him. I counted 6 barrels. Why would it need so many? As he stopped beside me, I could read stenciling on the gun's body, General Electric. So this is the General. Cole shouted, 7.62mm tungsten armor-piercing X-ray enhanced. He turned to me and grinned maniacally. This caliber is the largest allowed by corporate to be considered for defensive purposes and not technically a weapon of war. I read the fine print. I also saw that Cole was wearing a large backpack that was connected to the gun. Probably ammunition? That was a lot of ammunition. Cole continued. Jimmy says it's a crabby boarding frigate. They'll dock nose first and lob plasma grenades first if they get the door opened. If Carl/Jimmy walked up to the inner airlock door, opened the maintenance panel, and pulled the hydraulic release. Jimmy somehow extended 2 more arms. How many does he have? And pried the doors open, and the airlock stood bare, only the outer doors between them and certain death. Come here, he commanded. I scurried over. He pointed to the failsafe, a pressurized gas bottle to close the inner doors in case of power outage. What am I supposed to do? I screamed as I hid behind the bulkhead. The ship shuddered as the attackers made contact. Carl clicked the button, and the barrel started spinning. Witness me! The next moment was chaos. Fire! The unending crack of thunder felt like it was coming from inside me. That a giant picked me up and shook me. The gun filled the entire airlock with fire, and shell casings rained on me at an incomprehensible rate. There was nothing but pure sound. I was a being made up of only vibration. I didn't have to look to know that the rounds went through the closed outer airlock door without even slowing down. Carl started to soar back and forth, up and down, in some more circular motions. I don't know how I knew, but Carl was laughing, howling, screaming. The bulkheads inside the enemy ship melted and shattered, being unmade. Crabbies turned into paste. Biology turned into physics. Carl leaned forward, Jimmy's claws peeling the deck a little further. Smoke filled the airlock and the hallways. I was covered in spent shell casings, nearly half buried. I thought the end of all things would never end. The gun stopped, and the silence was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. The smoke suddenly cleared, and I stood up from my brass burial. I looked around the corner and saw it. The void, vacuum, outer space. 100 meters away, down the entire length of the ship, I saw a tiny hole drilled to infinity. Carl had shot through the length of the entire ship. My suit alarm chimed as it detected a drop in air pressure, and I came to my senses for a moment. I pulled the release handle, and the inner airlock slammed shut. The general glowed red-hot. Fucking A! He extended a middle finger on his artificial hand. Eat that! End of story. Story number 2. The Wine of My Ancestors, written by Something Touches Back. To Emperor Clath Untok, 3rd Emperor of the Clath dynasty of the Tok Empire, from Andis Khan, Prime Minister of the North Eurasian Union. As I write this, I am drinking wine from a gold chalice. As I sip wine, my ancestors speak to me. My ancestors in the Caucasus Mountains of Earth started fermenting the juice of grapes into wine at about the same time that those same ancestors invented metallurgy. My Phoenician ancestors, excellent warriors and neighbors, captured and carried the secrets of wine and metallurgy far to the west in endless wars of conquest. My Roman ancestors defeated the last of the Phoenicians, but carried their love of gold chalices northward. My Roman ancestors were in turn defeated by the Huns who, in conquest, carried the roots of their prized grape varieties into the Frankish lands, including the variety I am currently enjoying. Later, my Scandinavian ancestors liberated this particular chalice from the Frankish monastery and carried it eastwards to found the land of Rus. Finally, my ancestors amongst the Mongols liberated this chalice from the Rus, and through many generations it passed to me. As I sip the wine, my ancestors speak to me. They, who have fought and killed each other over thousands of years, now speak to me. They say that the terms of the so-called vassalage that your representative Prue offered are unsatisfactory. They say that these terms amount to little more than extermination by slavery. My ancestors, 6,000 years of warriors and weaponsmiths, are affronted by this, and by the atrocities committed in your name upon our peoples, and those of our allies across 100 worlds. My ancestors demand compensation. I have shared my ancestors' wine with the heads of the other human factions, and their ancestors have told them to also speak as one. Until the issue is resolved, all humans and all of our allies speak as one. In the box before you, we offer you the head of your representative Plu. When we have your head in return, we will cease our attacks on the Tok people. Emperor Klath-un-Tok looked up from the letter as the aide to Representative Plu lifted the lid of the boxes that had been placed before the Emperor's throne, one empty and one exposing the severed head of said representative. I recall someone telling me that the humans were weak and divided into squabbling factions that would not unite against us, said the Emperor. Apparently nobody told the humans that, said the aide. How close are they? 20 light years. Push back to that radius. The mighty Tok Empire has been reduced to 10 planets, said the aide. Then pulling from the satchel 2 glasses and a bottle of Georgian wine, the aide continued, The Tok people have no choice but to acquiesce to the humans' demand. And with that, the guard behind the Emperor drew his blade and dropped the Emperor's head into an empty box. End of story. I would quickly like to thank our Tier 5 patrons and channel members, Casper Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, it's difficult to pronounce, Lord Arishikal, Dragzoon WRE, and Arcadian. Thank you very much.